Okay, I know this is late the next day. I'm sorry. I did watch Full Gear last night, but I wasn't feeling well. I tried to film, but I just decided just to skip it and try now to do it. And if you guys, well, thank you for leaving nice comments. I did have to go to the hospital, just in case you wanted to know. I did. It seemed to be alright, but I am sick. And there was some weird stuff one weird thing happened, and unfortunately, one painful thing happened because, look at this. This is what I got from a nurse who gave me an IV. Look at that. Look at that. I got that from a nurse. She jammed that sucker in there, and she said, you know what? Your vein's going to be pissed at me. And it's not like I'm going to say, well, do it correctly. But what was I going to do? She already jammed it in and caused that mess. But I'm here. I'm alive. I can move my arm. But let's talk about Full Gear. Let's make this clear. Was this a good Full Gear? Yes. Yes. Did they go too far? Yes. Was that a good too far? Yes. They needed it because they have not been doing very well lately. Does this translate into bringing up the numbers? No. I'm not saying that AEW is dead. I'm not. But knowing full well what they've been doing lately and the fluctuation of the ticket sales when they do Dynamite or Collision, everything has been a big issue. So I cannot tell you that this is going to raise them up another level. I can't. They still have one major weakness. I'll explain if I don't forget. I'll explain at the end of this review. I'm not going to be putting any images into this, so I'm sorry. But I am going to tell you what I saw generally. Not going to be super detailed, at least I'm trying not to. Opening at the kickoff. The 3 matches we had. The first one was something I was interested in with Eddie Kingston versus Jay Lethal. Because we had not seen Eddie for a while. And seeing that they're still bringing him out, that he has still 2 titles, makes me personally happy. The match was okay. It wasn't a bad match. Eddie doesn't really give bad matches generally. Jay doesn't give either, but since his group doesn't really have that much prominence, it would have been better if they just won the tag titles for a while and made them interesting, and Sleg Daddy getting pissed off and coming up and doing assumed Jared position would have made me happy. They didn't do it. But it was fine. But what made me interested was what's going to happen with the Continental Classic, because Eddie's entered it. He said very clearly, I've entered the Classic. It's basically like a title at this point. It's going to be a title at the end. And I made it clear I'm going for that title, but I'm going to do something no one's ever done before. Currently, I am still ROH Champ and New Japan Pro Strong Champ. I'm going to do 2 things. One, every time I'm in the Classic, I'm putting up one or both of my titles. So he's putting up the Strong title and the ROH World Championship. So there's a good possibility if he doesn't lose it, he'll make it to the end with them. But he also said he wants to be a Triple Crown winner because the end of it is supposed to be a title, not a cup. Maybe he just did that on purpose to spoil it. He wants to be a Triple Crown champion. If they do that with Eddie, the one thing I want is that he becomes more prominently shown. Because let's make it clear, when you saw that match, out of any of the matches that we see most throughout the night, Eddie was heavily cheered. And I got to say, the Cali crowd was great. I don't remember where they were, but the Cali crowd was great. But Eddie was one of the few that was cheered heavily. I mean, loud. I mean, everyone was being cheered loud, one or another. But he was one of those few that was really very loved. So they really need to do something with Eddie. Buddy Matthews versus Cesaro. Major problem for me. Not that the match quality was bad. It was not. It was good match quality. Eddie wasn't as good as this. Eddie and Jay wasn't as good as this. This was better. Problem. No story. Yes, the Blackpool Combat Club and the House of Black are together, but what has the Blackpool Combat Club done with the House of Black? Not much. In the House of Black, where Brody King pretty much has had a broken wrist, and he's been working with Julia Hart. And when it came to Malachi Black, he hadn't been there for a while. Supposedly it was away because of mental problems. He was very frustrated. He was very depressed. He even was supposedly speculating he wanted to leave AEW, but he hasn't. He's still under contract. So seeing how this is, it's like there's nothing for the House of Black and the Blackpool Combat Club. Yeah, they're having a feud, but it doesn't feel like much. The match was good. It was going to be a handshake, but it didn't happen. Claudio put out the hand, but he walked away. Fine. Final match of the kickoff, or 0 hour as they talk, as they say, was the ROH tag titles. The Guns versus MJF and Samoa Joe. Now, was this a good match? It wasn't bad for the Guns, and it wasn't bad for Joe, and it wasn't bad for MJF. There was one major issue that, well, Joe is there because he wants a title shot. He's willing to help an MJF. MJF knows this. He just doesn't want to deal when he wants to make it about himself. Now, Joe respects that. He's saying, you want it? Fine, no problem. You want to be like that, but you need me. So, through the match, it wasn't bad. They kept having conflicts on and off between Joe and MJF, but eventually they won. Now, Joe, after it was done, they shook hands. He said, I promised you, I kept my word. You know what's coming next. He says, yeah. But they shook hands. He left. But the Guns basically attacked an MJF. Joe did not come back. He left it. And MJF gets his leg, knee, and, well, his thigh and his knee destroyed supposedly by the Guns. And I know I didn't mention anything with Adam Cole coming in at the last minute because Joe was knocked out of the ring. You see, after it was all said and done, they brought in the stretcher. MJF is taken away to go to an ambulance. He's begging and screaming at Adam, please don't let them take my title. Promise me. And he said, I promise. So that means he's going to be in the match because it was finally decided about, 8 to 10 minutes later, that since MJF was going off to a medical facility, that Adam Cole would be in his place wearing a cast on his leg. Well, a boot. He's wearing a boot on his leg for his ankle. We know he's had surgery, legitimate surgery. He's still not ready yet. It's only been a couple of weeks since he had double surgery, supposedly. So it was decided he would do this. Was this a good way of setting things up? It wasn't bad. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't know how they were going to do it, but this is what we knew. First match of the main card, 6-man tag. Sting, Allen, and Adam Copeland, who, even though is generally over, is not CM Punk over. This is what problem is, that and Justin Roberts is, I don't know why Vince got rid of I believe his name is Justin Roberts. Why did they get rid of that announcer? He has such a prominent voice. Honestly, his voice is so strong. It's not about his loudness. It was about his demeanor when he talks. That made it feel important when it came to the Rated R Superstar. You can feel how important Adam is. But Adam still is not at the level of a CM Punk. And that's the major issue we got with Adam. Adam is still a great wrestler. He's still well over. He's still well loved. But he's not Punk. And you can feel it. Now, was the match between them, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne, and what did we want? We wanted Jay, the Christian, to go up against Adam, the former Edge. And most of that, they kept teasing him back and forth. Almost him grabbing him at one point during the match when finally, I believe it was Darby who got, and this is interesting. Right after that match, supposedly that crazy bastard was heading to Mount Everest right after that show. Literally, once he finished the show, after he probably got some rest and got checked over to see if he was all right, he was going to catch a flight to Mount Everest to go climb it. That crazy bastard, right after a match, is going to climb Mount Everest, and he probably's already been doing it right now. He's a nut. I respect him, but he's a damn nut. But after he tagged Adam, you see Adam in the ring with Christian, and you could see Christian running out and trying to make sure he doesn't get touched. In the end, I don't remember who got the pin. I think it might have been Sting. No, I think it might have been Adam that got the pin. It might have been Adam Copeland. So the faces won, of course. But the thing that meant something to me personally was that this is the last time Sting was going to perform in California. Doesn't matter what part. And once it was all done and everyone was cheering to a certain extent, Darby grabbed the mic and said, fucking cheer. Cheer your fucking asses off. This is the last time you're going to see Sting in a damn ring. This is it. And that's when they finally got off their hands and they really cheered for Sting. Because technically, unless he's going to come back again, he's done. Sting will not be wrestling anymore once he hits Revolution next year. That's a couple of months away from me. I think February or March is Revolution. So in a few months, he's done supposedly, finally going out on his own terms. And you could see this meant something to him. It's not like he was crying anything. And knowing that Darby, Adam, and Sting were all wearing face paint. Well, Adam and Darby were wearing on the left or right side while Sting is all still painted up. But still, knowing that this is the last general match in California for Sting, unless he comes back and I gotta say Ric Flair, I'm not forgetting Rick. He took, not only did he get a nut shot, he took kind of a bump with the nut shot because he did face Christian in his face because he was trying something. And I don't want to see Rick in the ring again. I don't care if everyone's fine with it. I'm not. Especially JD said, that's what he said, that Ric Flair, I did a gut report on it, where Ric Flair fell asleep on the mat in his last match. Supposing he was exhausted, that he just laid down on the mat. Everyone was still wrestling. Motherfucker was asleep. Yeah. But I believe it was JD who stated it when Rick finally came in, when he was hired by AEW, that he was drunk when he did that match. Now, I don't know if his report is better than what I saw on NoDQ.com when I did my Gump report. He probably knows more than me. So if that was true, that bastard was drunk, on top of not able to keep up in a real full match with probably a messed up foot, and then fell the fuck asleep, that's some bullshit. I never want to see him in the ring again. I will never take away that he worked his ass off for the years, doing things that no one ever did in pro wrestling. Putting people over that was either not able to be put over, or putting people over that was meant to be put over, and meant to become like a star like Sting. And anyone else. I'll never take that from him, but in these later years, I don't want to ever see him in the ring again. I am done with him. Let him be a manager for the rest of his life. I don't fucking care. He can do a couple of bumps on the outside, but no fucking way I want him in the ring again. Ever. And if you like that, you want him in the ring, more power to you, but for me personally, never. Moving on. Next match. The international title. Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. The rematch where Orange, even though he won his title back, never felt like it was validated because he never went after Mox and never got it because Mox did get concussed when he went up against, Orange got the title from Ray, but Ray gave pretty much Mox a concussion and he was out for a while when he won it. So he felt finally this has to be it. Now, what happened on Dynamite before, because of that, I think it was Dynamite, where he gave him a straight shot to the face with his orange punch and it didn't affect him. That really helped the match, but it was already sold to me personally. There was nothing more they could have added on top of it. Like I said in my Dynamite review, we're not getting much extra. Even though everyone else is even more hype, like just Alex was more hype because of it. Yes, we got segments that added to the match, but it didn't make it more important than what the match has already become. So this match was very good. Mox got cut open in the head again, as usual. And eventually, Orange did win. He did finally get the title back. No, not my saying. I'm sorry. I think the reason I said that, botching, is because what I think should have happened that might have made it interesting was a DQ win for Mox. That he didn't beat Orange, but he technically won. I think that would have been better for the story because, yes, it's a good thing to see that Orange did win, and he needed to win. But the problem here is that seeing that Orange had to do not one, how many orange punches he gave? 6 orange punches it took to take Mox down. And it was good that it took 6. But I felt like they could have done more with the story. They didn't need to end it. Because I think Mox should have won the title by technical. By, not technical knockout. By pretty much a count out or disqualification by Orange. I think that would have helped Orange's character more. That he's so desperate to get that win. So desperate to keep the title. That he does something that either does a count out win for Moxley or a DQ win for Moxley, which pisses off Orange even more, which would have helped his character so much more. And I think that would have helped going into the next pay-per-view. That's what I believe would be good, that going forward, that Orange losing the way he did because of his temper, because he wanted it so bad. And Mox said, you see, you can never beat me, which made it even more angry when he does his matches. He becomes so out of sorts that Trent, that Hook, and even Chuck just don't know what to make of him. He's not turned heel. He's just become obsessed. I think that would have been better. Now also, Hook and Wheeler Yuta having some issues after the match is over. Maybe they're setting up the FTW title to be taken. Next. The match that I knew had to end one way. There was only one way it had to end. I don't care what anyone says. If you're angry that Shida lost, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Shida lost for you. But tasteless. She is tasteless. Being timeless Toni Storm. And I love it. She's using the style of a woman that's from the 40s or the 30s. She's having black and white. She's having the attitude like this. She's doing everything possible to look over the top and stupid in modern day, but looking like a throwback from the 40s and 30s, or maybe latest, early 1950s. This is something you don't see in wrestling, where someone puts a character in such a way that makes you love it, or love to hate it. Seeing that she tried to use the shoes twice, didn't work, and the only way she could win, because the match was fine, it was alright, it was a fine match. She did take Shida's boot off at one point, and also did an ankle lock on Shida, which we don't usually see from Toni Storm, which is great. She decided and let me give you like this, in the very opening of the match, when she got into the ring and Luther was outside and handing her script so she can give it like she did with Emi Sakura. Which I really feel bad for her because she deserves more, and that's Emi Sakura. They should put over the Queen more so she can mean something. But unlike that, she's trying to hand it to Shida. She tears it up, and Excalibur says, oh, she's going off script. Which, good. I'm glad he did address it. Because it wasn't like she was going to scream out, I'm going off script. So that was the very opening of the match. Then she tried to use 2 shoes that were on a platter. No, not platter, but a dinner plate. Not dinner plate, but dinner, what do you call it? A dinner tray. A small dinner tray, like about this size. With 2 shoes. When it came down to it, the shoes didn't work. Her cheating didn't work. She decided, while no one was seeing it, to stick that tray into her buttock and then give her a hip attack straight to the face, and she won. And understand this, throughout most of that match, they did cheer for Shida, and they cheered for Storm. But when it was over, they were cheering Storm way more than Shida. And Storm won, and what was her name? May, I can't remember the first name, but May came out. She was already out. She gave her the flowers after it was over. You see that Storm tries to hide the evidence, pulling it out of her ass and her trunks and her stockings. Gave it back to Luther, who stuck it into his coat. And now you got her winning, which she needed to win. There was no, if she lost, I'm telling you right now, if she lost, flat out, you can kiss the women's division goodbye. I don't care whoever came. I don't care if it was Ronda Rousey, because they already reported she's at ROH. I don't care if it was Mercedes Moné, which I do believe she might not go to AEW. She might, maybe. She may go to Impact Wrestling, which will turn to TNA. I think at Hard to Kill she might show up. I got no evidence. But due to the fact of how WWE is still working, I don't think she's going to. And that if Ronda's showing up on ROH, I think if Mercedes is cleared, because she did break her ankle months ago, she might end up there first, going to TNA. Maybe. Because she never did face well, she's going to have a lot of women she's never faced. She's going to have, how many women are we going to be talking about that she might face? She may face Courtney Love. She may face, and then this is Mercedes. Courtney Love, unless she goes back to Rosemary. Jessica, Gazelle Shaw, Deonna Purrazzo. I'm leaving her last. You're going to have MK Ultra when it comes to Killer Kelly or Marsha Slamovich. You could have pretty much, or Joy Grace will break her back if she's not careful. But along with any other women we got there, which we do have one Japanese JoJo wrestler, which we haven't seen yet, you will have her go up against her best friend. That's Trinity. That makes the most sense so far, unless they are going to bring in, and Ronda's just starting there, or Ronda's just there for Marina Shafir. I don't know yet. Let's move on. The ladder match for the tag titles for AEW. We got the tag champs. We had FTR. We had... This was the thing when it came to the House of Black. Look. I was not against the House of Black being there. When it came to what was the name? BFI, I believe that's the name of them. When it comes to Roosh and the guy who was working with him, because I still don't remember his name. I would have thought Van, why wasn't Van there? I would have thought he would be in it. It would have been more interesting. You would have 3 big men in there instead of 2, but I can understand why they wanted to have Brody King and a Big Bill by themselves, but that would have been interesting. Big Bill, then you had Brody King, and then what is this guy's name? I keep forgetting his name. Preston Vance or Price? I forgot it. But it would have been big, small, medium, small. That would have been it. It would have been interesting. But it was not a bad match. But seeing the House of Black there, and even though it did make sense having Brody King there instead of just having Big Bill by himself, it wasn't bad. But what was FTR there for as well? I mean, it would have been made more easier if FTR had been by themselves and the House of Black was not there. Because then the triple threat would have made some sense, because what was going to FTR and BFI, if I'm right with their abbreviation. But throwing the House of Black in there, knowing that full well that if they're having them there, I didn't expect them to win, because of Malachi Black has not been there for months. And he only just recently came back, and they don't really have much at all. They're supposed to be messing with Blackpool Combat Club, but then it's like, it feels so disjointed for me personally. I'm sorry, it just does. But it was not a bad match. It was not. In the end, the tag champs retained. Look, I didn't expect Ricky to lose. I didn't expect Big Bill to lose. I didn't think they should lose. I didn't think FTR should gain them back. No. I didn't think the House of Black should gain it. Or Roosh and, what was it, El Dilio? I can't remember his name. I didn't think any of them were perfect to be the ones who would win. Because I think at this point, Big Bill and Ricky Starks, even though I think it was just thrown on them, they have made the best out of it. Not everyone is fond of him, but at least you're being consistent. This is one of the problems they have in AEW. They're not consistent right now. They're not always consistent with their wrestlers or their titles for that matter. Look what's happening in the International Championship. Back and forth, back and forth. Of course, Mox got a concussion. Understandable. But when it came to the International Championship, you had Orange holding that title for so long. And yeah, he got over with it. But it was a point where he needed to drop it. He dropped it to Mox. But then Mox got concussed. Ray Phoenix got it. Then you see that Orange got it back. But like I said, it would have been better to make a more stronger story between him and Mox. And Mox got a technical win, but he didn't win. And I think that would have added to the story, but not sacrificing the title. That's how I felt. But here's where the title felt for many, many months irrelevant. TBS title and the fatal the three-way of Sky Blue, who, understand, this is what you got in this match. You had the most currently interesting person because you weren't sure where she leaned. And that's Sky Blue. After she got sprayed in the face, you didn't know what the hell she was. Was she going to work with Julia Hart and join the House of Black or not? And then she started having issues with a Chris Statlander, but you couldn't tell if that was true. So she was the most interesting, the most well-developed, because there's a difference between interesting and developed. Sky Blue has become interesting and just recently became developed, but she's not the most developed. Julia Hart is. Julia Hart had a very long run of wins, not saying they're all perfect, and then she had the title shot, which she lost. But due to the fact of how she had Brody King by her side, that she was so heavily pushed, you knew she needed to win. But also you knew that she's been developed enough that you can buy that as a House of Black member, she is ready for it. So she's the most developed, whether you like it or not. And then there's Chris Statlander, who is not the most interesting and not the most well-developed. And understand, I don't hate Chris. I don't hate Chris Statlander. I actually like her. She's not a bad wrestler. She can talk decently well. I respect that she wants to do sign language while she's in the ring, either because of any relatives she knows, or I'm not saying that she's deaf. I don't think she's deaf. But any relatives or friends she has, she does sign language to speak to them. I respect that. But she came back cold. Everyone said she came back hot. No. No, she did not. They brought her in and let her win the damn title, which either, understand, Athena should have got the title a while before that. Taya Valkyrie should have got the title a while. I don't even know if Taya is still working with AEW or ROH. I don't know where she is. You had so many women, like a Ruby Soho, like they could have done something with Jamie Hayter before she got hurt, or a Saraya, she should have gotten it. One of these other women who were way more over and who were developed at least enough before they faced AJ Cargill, at least then it made sense. Because at least they did some build for them when they came in and when they were hot. Nothing with Chris. She came in, won the title, and then she did open challenges. So I felt nothing from her. And that was a waste. Not saying her wrestling was bad. It was just her development as a character. She's nothing. So you look at the match. Most of the match was fine. Chris is a very strong pro wrestler, and she's dealing with two very light girls. So it wasn't that bad for her to be able to do multiple suplexes, as one person said. She's like a suplex machine who has Excalibur, and you heard a little Taz say, hold on, partner. No. Just because she did that, no, I earned my shit. That's what Taz was trying to imply. Just because she just did a few of these, let's see her do it a whole bunch of times constantly. Then you can say she's a new suplex machine. Because that makes sense. Because the current suplex machine, that isn't AEW, that is valid. If it's not Taz, it's Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was known as the suplex machine. He earned it in TNA Impact Wrestling. But that's just me. I'm just seeing it in that respect. That is just how it is. So by the time it was over, you saw that Julia and Sky Blue were not on the same side. Well, sort of, because Sky was willing to stick her hand out. Julia walked up to her, shook it, and then just tried to annihilate her afterward because she ain't trusting nobody because of how Sky Blue was acting. But in the end, after the suplexes were done by Chris Statlander, she won by picking up the scraps. There's no problem with that. Let's make this clear. There was no way she was going to put a Chris Statlander into a submission lock and get away with it, and not people going to say, oh, she just gave it to her. At this way, at least she did win. It wasn't a bad win, and you could see it was necessary. Let's make this clear. Statlander, I don't hate her, but she has nothing. No character development, no stories, nothing. This is the most stories she's had in months. Sky Blue is still very interesting because we still don't know if she's going to join Julia, or is she going to start feuding with Chris, or she's just going to be even more dangerous because now she lost to Julia Hart. That's just how it goes. Now, let's make this clear. The next matches we got were very interesting. Sorry for the mic. The Texas Death Match. And, you know what? I'm going to leave that last. Because as you see from the title, I'm going to leave that last. Let's go to the last two matches before this. The Golden Jets versus the Bucks. Here's the deal. Bucks, if they lost, they lose their title shot for Big Bill and Ricky. If they won, the Golden Jets must stand because they couldn't stand that their best friend, who's no longer elite, is with somebody they hated so much and who's just basically milking whatever he wants. Now, I don't know when Chris cut his arm open. I think it might have been because of something that was left over from the Texas Death Match. I don't know. I didn't notice when, but he got cut. Now, it might have been when I went to the bathroom, I think. Or something before. I just didn't notice. But his right arm was cut. He was cut open right along here. So it was hard for him to work with an arm that was literally cut open. He did his best. I'm not going to tell you. Let's make this clear. No matter if you still like Chris or you think he's too damn old, as a 52-year-old wrestler, he just should retire or just become a manager. He can still go. He may not be able to do heavy flips and jump over everything as much as everyone else anymore, but he does have great strategy. He does know how to motivate the crowd. He does know how to put people over. He knows how to be a ring general. Then you look that with him doing what he did, he helped to guide most of that match. Not all of it, but most. When it came down to it, and I'm telling you right now, this was the best outcome. I'm sure everyone would say, oh, now you're going to see them getting the title shot. I'm sure there's going to be people that's not going to like it. But what was the Bucks doing anyway? The Bucks losing and then throwing a damn tantrum afterward, which was fine. I actually am glad they threw that tantrum like what Chris Jericho did when he lost to Action Andretti. Let's make it clear. That tantrum that he threw after he got beat by Action Andretti was fine. It helped him to turn into what he became. Here, the Bucks needed to do something different. They needed to act like bitches. They needed to get so damn pissed they would just make a mess, and they did. And I'm glad they did. I am honestly happy that happened. It needed to happen. So the question is, where did the Bucks go from here? And when will they do that match between the Golden Jets and Bill and Ricky? I don't know when. We'll find out. Final match of the night. That was Adam Cole versus Jay White, which was scheduled after MJF was pretty much taken away to the hospital. Everyone was going like, the guy is legitimately hurt. He cannot wrestle. What the fuck is this? Is he faking it? I think that's what some people were saying. But he had legitimately had ankle surgery twice. He did. So they were trying to make it as interesting as possible before MJF came in. And I knew they were doing it. But I'm sure there were some people that speculated maybe he's still faking it. Me personally, I knew he was hurt. So I knew something had to happen. And look what happened. MJF came back in the damn ambulance with his thigh wrapped. Not his knee or his ankle. Just his thigh. He comes limping in. He goes to Adam, says, I'm here. Don't worry. He says, Max, what are you doing? He says, I'll take it. And Adam goes out of the ring. He gives him a big hug, and then they have the match. And the majority of this, I will say to Jay White's credit, he made it all about, this is a damn joke. I'm going to whoop that ass. I'm going to win this damn title. No problem. There wasn't a problem with his performance. The way he worked the match. Now, was it a little bit overacting by a MJF for the beginning of it? Yeah. Let's make this clear. He overacted just a bit during the beginning of the match. But as he went with it, he figured out how to make himself look more and more vulnerable. This is the best thing. Now, I think most people would say, well, to me, if they were in front of me saying, dude, the reason he overacted was on purpose, to be more vulnerable. No. There's a way of making yourself look vulnerable without doing such overacting, which he did. I think he wasn't really sure exactly how to first do it for the first couple of minutes. The rest of it, it was fine. You could tell that he settled down in how he wanted to get the crowd because he wasn't sure how heavily he had to really milk his thigh and his knee injury. He was doing fine when it came to collapsing every time. It wasn't bad. But the way he was doing it and screaming, that was a bit much. Not until he had to really begin to build up into it and then act like he was really getting adrenaline going through his body and saying, come on, you motherfucker. And they did a lot of cursing during the show. Come on, you motherfucker. Give me your best shot. And he gets hit in the knee. And I think that was about 10 to 12 minutes in. And that is when it was like about 5 minutes in where I noticed it. And in between that is when he started figuring it out. And by the 12 minutes, he already knew exactly how he wanted to motivate the crowd to be in his corner. Exactly how he wanted. So it took about 5 minutes for him to figure it out. Well, for me to figure out that he was overacting. And then from 5 minutes to 12 minutes, when he really got it down, how he wanted the crowd to be motivated in his corner and to hate Jay White and to care about Adam. That's how it went. Damn good match. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was a damn good match. No Samoa Joe coming out. The Bucks, well, not the Bucks, but the Guns, I said the Bucks. But the Guns coming out to interfere, that I'm not surprised. Adam having the Dynamite Diamond ring and then leaving it on the apron for MJF to get it, but could not. But then Jay White got it, tried to do it, could not get an MJF. Getting 3 nails, let me give it to you like this. Seeing that this happened because the Guns came in and interfered. Seeing that at one point, and I'm not forgetting about the title, and the title hitting a MJF in the face, seeing that all this was set up, when it came with the Guns, the title, the Dynamite Diamond ring, it was done pretty damn well. And people absolutely ate it up. And it was because of how well MJF, Jay White to his credit, and Adam managed to do their roles very well. But I do admit, MJF did at first. He was not there at first for the first 3 to 5 minutes. He was overacting a little bit. This is a lot. This is a little. He did it. That's just me. Final match that I'm going to talk about is the match that comes with the title. Swerve earned his spot. Look, I never hated Swerve Strickland. I always felt there was an issue with him when it came to how he did his matches with people, because a lot of times either I felt that he was not able to sell correctly, or he would only sell when he was in the mood. That's how it always felt for me. On the mic, great. In the ring, when he was doing his work, great. But selling was not great. He always seemed to be mediocre when it came to selling. When you look at this match, in this Texas Death match, he worked, sold it. Look, opening, Prince Nana, he got the best thing he could ever love. He got the Nana girls. The girls were there dancing with him. I don't know if I'm going to put any images. I don't think I will. I want to just edit this video because it's going to be in 2 parts. Because I've already passed 30 minutes. And my stomach's still bothering me. But when you see this, seeing Nana dancing with those girls was good. I loved it. The match itself, seeing that Hangman Page did not wait for an intro. He just ran down and just started the match. It made sense with his part. Seeing that this Texas Death Match, I've seen many of them. Not going to tell you I've seen the most brutal or the most gruesome in my life. I am not. But this one is pretty damn good. To the point where there's only one other match that comes close to it that's recent. And that was PCO versus a Steve Maclin. Because if you don't remember, I can't remember which Impact Plus show it was. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Where they were fighting. And a real staple gun was used. Like everyone does. But they never used real staples. That was the first time I can remember ever seeing that Maclin stapled legitimately PCO's mouth shut. I'll repeat that again. Maclin stapled PCO's mouth shut. I cannot remember which Impact Plus show it was. Because it was the Slammiversary. It was not Bound for Glory. I can't remember which one it was. I just don't remember. You guys can leave me a comment below, and I'm sure there's going to be someone's going to leave a sonnet, going to leave me a novel telling me, dude, I remember it, and maybe it wasn't this year, it probably been last year. He'll probably tell me that. I'm probably forgetting that it was probably last year. I think it was this year. That match between him and Maclin before he got hurt. I know it was well before the Australian tour, where Maclin was with PCO, and he stapled. I don't think it was Under Siege. I don't think so. I cannot remember the name of it. I'm sorry. But he stapled his mouth shut. What did we get with Hangman Adam Page and a Swerve Strickland? Staple here, staple there. You see the blood coming. Staple in the back. And then a picture that he had in his pocket or in his trunks of his son. And he stapled that bitch straight to a Swerve Strickland's face. Ripped that bitch off where he was already bleeding from his head heavily. And this match would be considered, hey, are these guys really angry at each other? Is there, because it does happen, guys. It does happen. Where real wrestlers have an actual beef with each other and they work it out in the ring sometimes. Not that they solve their problem, but they'll fight each other in the ring like they legitimately hate each other because in actuality they could really hate each other in real life. One of them has an issue with the other one and they just take a little bit more liberty than they normally do. If you don't know, that happens in real life where some wrestlers have a real beef with each other and instead of being professional, they will go all out to make it look good and go a little bit beyond that and saying, yeah, we got to make this look good. I'm going to make this look good, but I'm going to fuck you up a little bit more because you pissed my ass off, you bitch. That happens. And that's what that looked like in this Texas Death Match. It was that brutal. We had a barbed wire steel chair. That's standard. We had glass on the back. And Swerve decided, I'm hoping that wasn't legitimately full glass. Because if Swerve had not been careful, because he put it on Hangman's back at one point, because Hangman got his ass kicked pretty badly, he put it all across his back, and he decided that he's going to do a splash onto him. Now, let's make it clear, Swerve Strickland has a bit of a stomach. Doesn't mean he's not in great shape. And when he splashed him, if that was real glass, I'm hoping it was candy glass, but if that was real glass, that shit could have gone straight into his stomach and cut his shit up. Hopefully that was just a candy glass. It kind of looked like real glass. Some of it looked like it was embedded in Heyman's back. But they used a lot of barbed wire. They weren't kidding about that. Prince Nana got thrown through a chair Well, not chair. What did he get thrown through? Oh, sorry. Nearing the end of the match, Prince Nana saved at least 2 or 3 times because the rules of the Texas Death Match either knock out or you can't get up. That's it. That was the rule. Nana pulled him out of the ring a couple of times. Hangman Page was sick of it. So he went and did a damn deadeye onto a table with Nana. Nana was willing to take that spot. Eventually, what did we get? We got Hangman being choked out, and I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to say this now, and I'm not being racist. I'm not being prejudiced. But I know some people, how they feel about white people. I'm sure that a few people seeing a white man being hung by a chain like that, saying, yeah, hang that fucking cracker. I'm just saying it. I think that's wrong to think that way. Honestly. But there's going to be some people out there that think it. And if you think that black people don't still think like that, you got another thing coming. Every race has racism in it. Even black people are racist. White, Spanish, Asian, doesn't matter. All of them are racist. And some of them think that way. In the end, what do we get? We get to the back of the head a cinder block that was already used on Hangman's back. Knock him out right after he got chained to the neck. And it was over. Swerve won. And that was that. It was that important of a match for Swerve Strickland. He earned a spot. From here, they can move him up either to the TNT title or the world title. I don't have a problem with him going there. And I do believe if he goes into the Continental Classic, it will really help him as well. Now, I haven't forgotten about, you know who. I know. Let's make this clear. We got a signing. We thought it might have been Mercedes Moné. No. We just heard that Ronda Rousey was in ROH. We thought maybe that might be her. No. And if I remember JD, he said there's just no way that Will Ospreay is going to be on TV. It's just not possible. If he does, I will not wear my hat. I could be wrong, but he said I'm not going to wear my hat on screen. And I know what he's feeling because I'm balding out. I'm older than he is, and I'm balding out. He don't like letting people see his head because he is balding. We got Will Ospreay coming out with Tony Schiavone, signing a contract and saying that he's all elite in February. He made it very clear to the fans. He said, I know you're anxious to see me. I know it, but guys, let me say this, that I need to finish up my work. Let me finish what I started with New Japan Pro Wrestling. But after that, Revolution, I'm yours. Please understand. I want to finish what I started. So he is not going to be all elite until 2024. Now, how do I feel about that? As the last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to Full Gear. I wasn't too surprised. I was hoping kind of that he would be brought in by Impact Wrestling, which would be turned into TNA in January. That would have helped them a lot to have Will Ospreay on their roster, even though I don't know how they're going to book him, counting on how they go forward as TNA. But I'm not surprised. Seeing that he's still not going to show up on TV, I'm not surprised. But it will give a lot of intrigue of what would a booking be for him. Because let's make this clear. He is the most hottest talent right now in the wrestling industry. Hell, he just did not one match for Impact Wrestling. He did 3 matches for Impact Wrestling, and he didn't job to Speedball Mike Bailey. He did not job to a Eddie Edwards, and he didn't job to a Josh Alexander. I knew he could not job to any of them. If he did, that would have been freaking stupid, particularly if he was going to come into the company. But he won all of them. I didn't expect him to lose, but I also didn't expect that he was going to come to Impact Wrestling. I would have liked it like with CM Punk, like with Mercedes Moné, like I said during the Triple Threat for the women, where I truly believe that Mercedes might not come to AEW. She may go to Impact Wrestling. That may when it reboots to TNA, she may show up there instead of AEW. It's not about the money some cases. Because look what Trinity did. That match, I saw the match later. I saw it yesterday. The match between her and Sunny Kiss. I didn't do a review of it, but I did watch it. Seeing her, I've always said, she puts her heart on her sleeve. She shows you how she feels when she works. She was having fun. I'm going to say that again. Trinity was having fun. If you saw the match, Trinity was having fun. She was that happy working in a match that she would have never had in WWE. Never. And I don't think she would have had a good match like that in AEW either. She would have been stuck with what she was having. Impact has more care for the women than does AEW. The most they got is just one person who's so over, and that is pretty much Timeless Toni Storm. So I think maybe Mercedes will go to a Impact Wrestling that will reboot TNA and Hard to Kill. I think they may bring her in then. Was this a good show? Yes. Was it brutal? Yes. But does it mean they're going to be able to really bring up their ratings? I don't know. I don't think so. Right now, having a great pay-per-view does not translate to what happens on the show. And that's one of the major issues. As I was talking with one of the first matches in this review of Adam Copeland. Adam is literally one of the hottest people that people love. But now he's in AEW as Adam Copeland, not Edge. If you're able to keep Edge, and there had never been a CM Punk, they could have started Collision with him. But CM Punk was there, and they started Collision because the network loved CM Punk. So right now, you got Dynamite that mostly is okay. You got Rampage that people generally don't all watch because it's on the same night as SmackDown. And then you have Collision. The major issue with Collision is that there's no guiding force behind it, no CM Punk. And if Adam Copeland was on there by himself, it would take him a long time to really get people to care about Collision. Because no matter how much you love or hate CM Punk, he was so polarizing that people cared about Collision. It may have never gotten huge numbers, but it was consistent numbers with consistent booking. But this is just me. Peace, and I hope you enjoy this even though it is late. Sorry, guys.